Hello everyone, this is the Chubby Funster. This is the third and final part of my adventure analysis for Destroyer of Worlds for the Alien role-playing game. There will continue to be near total spoilers in this video. We have advanced through exploration, assault, and invasion phases, and now we are in the escape phase. The PCs are outside Fort Nebraska, their former military base. It is protected by a perimeter wall and automated defenses that are essentially impossible to overcome on foot. The text shows 4 ways to get in: getting help from the insurgents, hacking, sneaking in via pipeline, and using one of the tanks that are active on the map to blow your way in. I've never had players still working with the insurgents this late in the adventure, nor did anyone think of or convince a tank crew to come help them all the way back at the base. The West Wing and Southwest Bastion have been annihilated from the air by the Space Soviets. Only one gun emplacement remains intact, but it's offline. The reactor's offline, so there's no lights. The entire base is on lockdown. You need keycards to open anything, including the canyon bay door that they use to move vehicles up to the surface. So whether you're coming in through the pipeline, hack open the gate, smash the gate, scale the walls after you destroy the auto turrets, with overlapping fields of fire, once you get inside, there are of course a few problems. The deployment ramp that they drove up on their way out of the base, what was that, 12 hours ago, 24 hours ago? It probably seems like a lifetime to them now. Well, that ramp is not covered in snow. That's weird. Turns out it's sealed, locked, and warm to the touch. Always a good sign. And the reactor access is covered in rubble. You can clear it, but it will take a long time. The western part of the base is also registering a weak radiation bloom with a strong radiation bloom on the east side. I'm not going to get too critical here, but this does funnel the players to the North Bastion. I wish there were some other exits that were easier ways to get down in, but I understand why they did things the way they do. First off, the players are going to need some things from the North Bastion before they go down towards the reactor, but we'll get to that in a second. The North Bastion has 2 surface levels that are fantastic from a dungeon design perspective. There are 6 pathways up from 1 to 2. Unfortunately, 3 of them are elevators that won't work without the power on, and that leaves 2 ladders and an access through ventilation ducts. There's also an express elevator from level 2 down to sublevel 3 if you can get the power up and you have the right key card. And there's an error in the level 1 map. This little circle here in the ventilation ducts actually goes down to sublevel 1, but it's improperly labeled. I'm not sure what happened. But looks are deceiving. All of level 1 and portions of level 2 are coated in alien resin, and they've expanded their hive into this area. I can't do the dangerous thing, interesting thing, valuable thing in this dungeon as I have in previous videos because the Marines are being hunted by active aliens that move around the structure. Aliens are listed by room and summarized by level on this chart, but they move around a lot. And there are rules for random stuff in elevator shafts and service tunnels, with a 1 role being a Xeno drone that could easily kill a Marine one-on-one, so they better travel in groups. And there are ventilation ducts everywhere to facilitate movement, and a lot of the base was already destroyed by the Marines to prevent it from falling into space Soviet hands before everything technically went to shit. Now, Alien has great rules for motion sensor detection and stealth. No surprise there. So this place is one huge combat arena, and we haven't even looked at the sublevels. And I've gotten some really great tactical combat out of these maps. I run them on a VTT with tokens. It works great. You can stalk and hunt them with aliens, trip their motion detectors, pull back, get them to panic, move in the wrong direction. It's great.
7, 6.
Can't be, that's inside the room.
It's reading right, man, look.
Well, you're not reading it right.
5 meters, man.
So what do the players discover? Well, Containment protocol was activated after a bioweapons outbreak on sublevel 3. The mainframe, Apollo, has everything on lockdown, and you have to release that before you can access anything without a major keycard. Unfortunately, you need power to get the mainframe out of sleep mode. You can either help them figure this stuff out or wait until they get up to the mainframe and figure out they can't reboot it without power after wading through a lot of alien resin. And the book often says stuff like, make sure the players understand this. But remember, it also says that the PCs can learn this or that piece of information in some particular way. I try to establish a pattern early in the adventure of the players checking their PDTs for information on various items from time to time, and then hopefully they've learned that kind of stuff. They don't just walk around. They say, oh, I'm going to look up how to find out that answer. But sometimes they don't. They don't put that together. And they end up wasting a lot of time fighting their way up to a mainframe or some other place on the base, only to realize that they need something else like power and they have to go in a different direction. So there are 3 elevator shafts and 1 ventilation duct that go down to sublevel 1. There's a major's key card in one of the lobbies or in the commissary, GM's choice. I tend to put it in the commissary so they have to get back in there and explore and dig around a bit. And there are hazmat suits in the armory. And that's important because when they get down to sublevel 1, it is also in a damaged state. Huge damage, medium intensity fires, hazmat recommended just to breathe easily, and also there's strong radiation coming out of the ammo depot. That's not good. Oh, and there are 3 crash dropships in the staging area. You can use power loaders to move them, but it takes time. So how the hell do we get to sublevel 2, where the reactor is? Well, there's 6 access points, 3 from the ventilation ducts, 2 elevator shafts, and through the radiated ammo dump. Pick your poison. Sublevel 2 is probably undamaged, right? Well, there are no fires, but that's a positive, small positive, I guess. But it is covered in alien resin, and there's a strong radiation everywhere because the aliens have accidentally damaged a few of the nukes in the ammo depot. And when you go check it out, there's a charger alien there, and there's no way to really fix the leak. So everyone has to wear hazmat or die in a pretty short period of time in the alien rules. Oh, and that charger, it's on par with the Queen in terms of toughness, and it's in the ammo depot. So if you try to use explosives or fire off too many rounds, so let's assume they don't accidentally nuke themselves. They're going to need to turn on the reactor. Well, the maintenance pits are packed with impregnated Marines that can't be saved and are constantly shedding chest bursters. To make matters worse, drones are arriving every few rounds to drop off new bodies. So that's going to be a lot of combat. The reactor relay room will let you restart the reactor, but first you need to reset the fusion tower. That's the big, like, nuclear cooling tower you see from the movies. And that requires a heavy machinery roll and some time to work on it. But there are 3 more Xenos here, soldiers that are even tougher than the drones. So let's say you do all that and you get the power back online. You have to go back up through sublevel 1, then surface level 1 of the North Bastion, and to get to the mainframe on surface level 2. And that's when you meet Jail. Unless you came here first before turning on the power, which is entirely possible, all 3 of my groups killed her immediately because Chaplin had told them about how she was an evil bitch as soon as she lost control of him back at the beginning of Act 2. But with the power up, you can end the lockdown and get the elevators running again, which makes it possible to use the express elevator that'll take you down to sublevel 3. Friendly reminder, you're going to be fighting aliens from time to time as you take care of all this movement. So they're going to find tons of aliens being stored in the cold storage bay 4. Bays 1 through 3 are empty and look like all of the aliens were moved out of there quickly, recently. So all those aliens are out there in the universe now. Shit. Oh, and there's a lab where they were doing all that nefarious shit, like putting aliens in chests of healthy Marines. This is also where you can get some kind of secret deal for Miss Eckford, and you can cure the infected pre-gen Dante if they're still alive. I've never seen that happen though. And you can finally access the space elevator. And that's where the Queen was when the space Soviets hit the reactor and everything went to shit. Now she has 9 full eggs, which will begin deploying facehuggers as soon as they detect the PCs, 2 soldiers, and 8 workers, which are not super fearsome on their own, but they're stronger than chestbursters, and 8 of them is quite a bit. Now, I'm not sure how anyone runs this as written and the party survives unless they use such heavy firepower. They probably damage the climber car, blowing the hell out of all these aliens. So I kept the queen and the eggs, but I removed the drones and the workers because I just felt like that was too much. And don't forget, there were events from Act 3 that we didn't talk about last time. They can find where their commanding officer fell in battle. He's a major, so that'll give them a major access card if they aren't finding one of those and you need to drop one. You can use alien acid to burn their way down to a lower level if they can't figure out how to do that. They can see an ongoing battle between an anathema and the Xenos, so that you can see like they don't get along. They're two different biological systems. They can find some Marines that are still alive fighting a drone, but these guys are already infected with chest bursters, so you can't like use them as replacement PCs unless you could extend the life of the chest burst later, I guess. And Dante can be approached by a drone that doesn't want to kill her, which would give away her infection to everybody else if nobody's figured that out by now. You can also have JL try to take over Chaplin again. I used this in the mainframe room once, but made it take a round for that to kick in, and the squad just killed her in that time, and it was kind of a dramatic moment. Uh, I don't know that I would punish a party by having Chaplin turn evil again. That would be real rough. Um, there are chest bursters cocooning here that will eventually turn into drones. The colonel apparently infected himself and put him in stasis, so and told everybody to get him off the world. So everybody just shoots him or smashes him or stabs him or whatever. Nobody's like, oh, let's help this guy. Um, and then finally, Dante can burst at any time. I've never had Dante survive long enough to burst, but maybe it happens. So, whew, that's a lot. If the players are successful, they are now on an upward trajectory into space. They may still have the queen on board the climber car. I had one group who just stealth moved past her and then turned it on everything and tried to leave. So she was still on there with them.
But wait, there's more.
There's one final fuck you left here. Space Soviet ship drifting along crashes into the space elevator above the climber car. Um, Everybody's floating around. You can use a spacewalk to get to an escape pod. You can hack one remotely and kind of have it jet over to your position. But pretty much you're gonna die here. I don't. I think one person one time made it into one of these escape pods. Otherwise, everybody else, it's always ended in death. I don't know that it's possible to actually survive this adventure without pulling punches in some way. That's not necessarily a bad thing. As written, though, I just don't think any of the pregens could make it this far. Reducing the number of enemies, not using certain events, whatever you feel you need based on how it evolves. But this thing is crazy diddly. So I've done my best to organize all these Legos for you, but I think it's pretty clear that is the greatest challenge of this module, information. So to go back to the 4 types that I started with in part 1, a GM needs to be extremely familiar with the locations, and we've been through, there's a lot of locations. There's the exploration locations, there's the oil refinery, there's the insurgent compound, there's all the places that they might run into on the way back to the base, and then there's this huge base, right? And you need to know how to role play, not just as simple NPCs that have one interaction point, like a lot of the guys at the spaceport, talking to one of the deputies at the marshal's office and stuff like that, but like multi-dimensional NPCs like Miss Eggfort that appear at different times that have different motivations, things that are very complex to remember when you're dealing with something else in a different part. And you have to be prepared to throw all of these events in as play, as needed, just as play evolves, you just put this stuff into motion. and you have to manage all of the opposition, and there's a lot of opposition. And the system in Alien is super tough. I'm having a drone or a soldier that can soak so much damage with their armor rating. It makes each combat, I mean, even just against one alien or two aliens, is super, super deadly. So this adventure is incredible. I love it. I mean, I have an amazing time running it. It's some of my best memories as a GM, but it is it is exhausting and difficult every time. And I hope that I've been able to capture all these elements in this analysis. Ultimately, I think there are three ways that you can run this. You can have a super tight flow, allowing them to advance quickly, bypass a lot of stuff if they need to. If they locate the insurgent compound quickly, go ahead, move forward. If they figure out a way to get back to the base quickly, do that. If they figure out how to move through multiple levels without constantly, go ahead. Just move it forward, drop hints, do whatever you can to make it quick and speedy as possible. That's how I roll it when I'm doing it with new new players, people who are sometimes never even played role playing game before. You can also run it methodically with a deep story where you focus on bringing out each of the individual story elements. I mean, like I described the spaceport as a weak location at one point in this, and it's weak in a structural sense, in that there's not a lot of things that are pointing you in the direction you need to go, but it's incredibly rich from a story sense, from a narrative sense. It has all of these things bringing out the desperation of the situation, the complexity. If you got Marines and colonists they don't want to be arguing with each other, but they're in a fight, and then there's insurgents who are trying to stir things up, and things are going wrong, and there's ships that need to be repaired, there's ships that work, but nobody can get on them. There's all these things to talk about at that spaceport beyond the needs of the adventure, right? And that's just great setting content. I like to marinate it in and let the players explore it. It's really great. And so far, that is largely how I have run it for veteran groups. And finally, you could run it 100% by the book. And I've never done that because I think it would just kill everyone. You would have tons of casualties, and bringing in replacement Marines so much you barely even remember the pre-gen by the time you got to the end of the adventure. You'd be on your fourth or fifth character with all of these aliens. I mean, just the charger alone in that ammo dump could kill three people like in 2 rounds. I mean, like it's insanely strong. So um, I think you would have to grind your way through. It would be extremely difficult. So the players would have to really know the alien system and be able to get the maximum amount of value out of it. And I don't know enough people like that. I just don't, and I haven't ever been able to run it that hard. And that brings me to my last point. The alien system has rules beyond what's in the adventure. Like you have to sleep. I know, what bullshit, right? So if you do actually track time flow, they're going to need to get some shut eye at some point. I had a group that had to take a shift of rest inside of a wrecked Soviet tank because they felt like they were going to die if they just kept going. Like their stress levels were so high, they were like, there's nothing else we can do. We're just going to have to. This is in the middle of, I think, after the Black Goo attack. Like everything is going crazy as shit, and they're like, we have to sleep. They're like, we're going to die if we don't take a rest. So. The system demands exist outside of the adventure content, right? And I didn't even get into how they can freeze to death. Like they're on an icy rock moon in the middle of a frickin' blizzard, right? Like freezing to death is a real deal. So in addition to everything in the adventure, there's real problems.
All right, sweethearts, what are you waiting for? Breakfast in bed? Another glorious day in the Corps.
So I want you to run this adventure. I want you to try it. I want you to tell me how it works for you. I want you to give me some feedback. I would love to hear your stories. Chubby Funster, out.